Welcome back to the PR Hotline, your first call for PR fixes. This season, myself, Maya, and Grace are diving even deeper into the real issues people in PR, social media, and marketing face every day. From client expecting overnight results to burnout, creative blocks, and everything in between. If you've ever sat there wondering, is it just me? It's not. These are the conversations we all need but rarely have. Each week, we're joined by a guest to talk through a real problem from the industry, breaking it down honestly, sharing what's worked for us, what hasn't, and how you can approach it differently. Then, we'll dig into a campaign they've brought along, exploring the idea behind it, how it landed, and the lessons you can take into your own work. So, whether you're listening on your commute, on a coffee break, or hiding from your inbox, we're so glad you're here. Let's get into season 2 of the PR Hotline. Today, we're tackling a myth that just won't die in PR, the quick fix. If you've ever been asked to get 100 links in 2 months, watch rankings wobble, and felt the pressure for an instant turnaround, or you're simply wondering why results can take longer than a reporting cycle, this one's for you. We're digging into what PR really looks like when it works, timelines, realistic KPIs, the value of that first month, and why always on beats short bursts every time. We'll talk US versus UK lead times, how to set expectations with stakeholders who don't get PR yet, and the kind of coverage that actually moves the needle. Our guest this week is Gabriella, or Gaby, freelance PR and founder of Gabriella Lucy PR. With a background that bridges digital and traditional, she's sharing candidly how she onboards, the media introductions that pay off later, and her playbook for pushing back on static KPIs in favour of smarter, long-term goals. Lots of practical takeaways in this one, especially if you're weighing a 2-month burst against a year-long strategy. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so I'm Gaby. I'm a freelance PR. I have my own consultancy called Gabriella Lucy PR, and I've been running that for about 2.5 years. And my specialisms are I've got a kind of blend of digital and traditional PR background, and I kind of like to say that my kind of USP is that I've got expertise in both those areas. And yeah, I'm excited to talk to you guys today.
Yes, definitely. We're very excited. So the topic that we're going to be chatting about today is around how brands can build visibility with digital PR and PR, and basically the myth around PR being that kind of quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
What has been kind of your experience, I guess, so far on a lot of clients maybe having that kind of myth that PR is a quick fix as a mentality? Have you found that maybe like digital is more of a quick fix kind of industry, or traditional is more of a quick fix kind of mentality, if that makes sense?
I think my experience is it's kind of a bit of both. I think there's different reasons for it happening in both kind of versions of PR. So I think in digital PR, brands often want to do a quick fix campaign if they've had sudden like rankings drop for a particular area, or they've seen a competitor doing like a massive campaign and that's really impacted them. So then they think that, well, we need to do a digital PR campaign over 2 months and it needs to get us like 100 links and they all need to be on like really high authority domains. And then I think the other side of that, like with the traditional side of it, it might be, I think sometimes traditional agencies or marketing teams that kind of do traditional PR might want to do short bursts of activity if they've got like a new product launching, or like seasonality, I think impacts it a lot as well. So like if it's Christmas and that's like a big trading period for the business, then they might want to do like a bit of PR in the lead up to that and then nothing afterwards, or like sales periods or something like that. Or if there's like a campaign that's happening or like messaging that's going on across like all marketing channels. So if they've got like a campaign that's happening on like social and for example, they might want to like translate that into PR, but then don't want to carry on after that. And I think it does as well, it does come down to like budgets as well, and sometimes they might have a bit of extra spend left over in marketing budget and think, oh, we'll just do a bit of PR with that. And I think a lot of the time it isn't seen as a kind of priority. And I think that's probably because it's harder to like show the value of it, essentially, because like in paid activity, you basically, the more you put in, the more you get out of it. Whereas PR is, you can put more in and you might not get, it's all very, you might not get as like amazing results, and that can be like down to millions of different reasons.
Do you think there's a bit of a knowledge gap issue? Often I found that when you work with teams who've never worked with digital PR before or worked in PR themselves, they are applying kind of paid or traditional thinking to PR, and it's just having to have that really difficult conversation with them, which is, I'm really sorry you don't understand this. Can I educate you so that I can make the most of this? Is that something that you come across quite often?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time, especially in like smaller businesses, PR might sit with like a team of people who don't really understand it and have suddenly become responsible for this thing that they like don't understand. And it's like not their fault, but it like a lot of the time it could be like the social team or like the SEO team. And yeah, they've been given this kind of project to manage, and I have been in those kind of been in a lot of meetings before with like stakeholders who don't know anything about PR, and having to really kind of explain to them why it is valuable, even though it is hard to track, and it's a really difficult conversation to have, and it is hard to like win them over as well. But I think that is a skill in itself, that is, I'm sure that like loads of PRs have come across that and been in those kind of meetings as well. And I think one of the like best ways of doing it is to kind of show like what competitors have been doing, and like how, if they are way ahead of you, like this is why you really need to be doing PR, and this is what you're missing out on, this is what you could be doing. And that's like a really kind of simple way of doing it. But I think with digital PR, it's kind of, that's why I like digital PR, because it is easier to show the value of PR as well, especially to those people that might not like necessarily understand it as much, because it is a bit more, there are more like numbers to it a little bit and things like that.
In terms of like talking to other people about PR and talking to clients and brands and everything like that, what do you think are like the common misconceptions about, not necessarily just like the differences, I don't know, between traditional and digital, but like timelines of actually getting results, what those results should actually look like? What would you say is the kind of the biggest ones that you've seen or heard, or not necessarily experienced, but like heard from somebody else that's talked about that kind of similar situation? What do you think
Yeah.
is the biggest thing?
I think misconceptions around, like, I personally hate like have like, I think having like really high like link targets for one campaign is quite ridiculous. And it's like, I think a lot of the time if you ask the person that set that like KPI or objective, like why do we actually need to get like 100 links, there isn't like a really valid reason, because I think you can kind of can achieve amazing results that are going to drive a lot more impact and kind of be a lot more valuable with like kind of ongoing PR and always on PR. And I think that these days, well, there's been so much talk like recently about AI and what like Google is looking for with its kind of new AI tools, and also like how brands can appear in like AI search results. That is all about like brands being positioned as like experts, like in their whatever their field is. And I think you get that from doing PR over a long period of time, whether that's like, I'd say usually like at least a year it takes to, if you're, for you to appear in those search results and for you to appear in those product roundups, like it's not a case of just spending like 2 or 3 months on PR. So I think the kind of misconception that you can do a digital PR campaign and it'll instantly turn the dial and instantly improve rankings is like quite a big myth.
It's interesting what you said, Gabby, about the KPIs, because realistically, I don't think I've ever come across a set like instruction for how to set KPIs or anything like that.
Mm.
People, unless prove me wrong, anybody, but I don't think there is one, and I think a lot of people just see big numbers rather than
Yeah.
like actually like. I mean, there's a lot of agencies out there that focus on bulk link building and bulk coverage building rather than actually focusing on like a quality and a strategy behind it. And I've definitely seen a bit more of a shift within the industry over the past couple of months of people spending more time on that quality coverage rather than, I think, in the past couple of years, I feel like it's definitely been more of that, like, get as many as possible and quick as possible, which I think is a really positive kind of move for the industry, not just because of like, obviously, I think that's better for brands in the long term, but it's also better for teams. Like, when I first started in PR, the KPIs were intense and it was overwhelming and it was easy to burn out. Whereas I feel like when you're doing something that's a bit more quality driven, it's nicer to work in, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and I think also like I also just don't think it's really possible anymore to get those kinds of results. It just doesn't really, it's not realistic. Like even if you do have a campaign with like amazing data, you've got amazing visuals, it's like packaged up really nicely, you've got loads of different angles, it might still not land, and that can just be so many, like, down to so many reasons. Like it might be the time of year that you're outreaching, also like the number of journalists we all know is like depleting, and the actual number of sites that you can go out to is depleting. So like it's just not like feasible to think to kind of work in that way anymore. Whereas I think if you spend those kind of really, really trying to get those high quality, pieces of coverage that are really going to resonate with the target audience of your brand, and actually maybe even generate like referrals to the site and buying products off the back of it. Like that's far more valuable, I think, than getting like hundreds of links on like random sites like that might not really be that impactful. I think like that's definitely the way that I prefer working. And I actually like posted about it on my LinkedIn the other day that I have like turned down a contract with a new client because they wanted to include, there's various reasons why I turned it down, but one of them was that they wanted to include a KPI in my contract to get like, it was for 10 links a month, which is not like too bad, but they wanted it to be on like average domain authority of 70 or above. Like I was just like, I don't want to work in that way. Like it's just a big red flag for me that it's very like narrow minded kind of way of thinking about PR, I think.
I'm not a PR. From kind of client services, and the perspective I have, I was setting KPIs across not just PR, but also kind of SEO, paid marketing. And the thing that always those PR KPIs was they were so static, which no other form of marketing would have the exact same KPI for December as they do for April. And yet PR typically does. You'll say, I'm going to aim for this average DA every month, or I'm going to aim for this number of links per campaign every month. And that's so not the way PR works. And I think it's quite an odd industry standard that you do static KPIs. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. Obviously, you're the expert here, but I do think that's something that within the industry, everyone needs to kind of think about when it comes to KPIs, and maybe doing more flexible KPIs and making that the norm.
Every agency I've worked with for the past couple of years, I've tried to introduce annual KPIs over a monthly KPI because I think, like you said, month to month, I mean, the past like 2 months, from my point of view, have been horrific in terms of getting like journalists to actually open my emails, let alone getting like links and stuff like that. I know that might be different for other PRs, but like there's certain months where it's just impossible to get links, but it doesn't mean we're not like working hard or like it's just.
And if you set the expectation at the start of the contract, if you say, this is a picture of the year, these are where the dips are going to be over summer and in January. So don't set your expectations too high. I'm telling you a year in advance, this is what the year will look like. Then when you hit that point, from a client services perspective, having that conversation is a lot more simple, instead of creating like an annual average of we're going to come up with 10 links a month when really it's half the time it's 15 and half the time it's 5. I've always found it really interesting that that's just the way so many agencies do their PR KPIs when they wouldn't expect that from SEO or any other department.
Mhm. And I think really like, sorry, yeah, you go.
Go.
I was just going to say that I think as well, like when you hire a PR freelancer or like an agency, like you are like paying them to be an expert. They are the experts in what they're doing. And you might not like be doing a big campaign at the time, but there might still be like an opportunity to get a link on like a really amazing relevant site like that is going to be really impactful, but it wasn't planned. It's just like kind of that might be because it's something has been talked about in the news and it's like something that you can jump on, but you can't plan for that. And that is something that, yeah, you know, there might not be, you might be having a bit of a quieter month and then that can happen. So it's like, yeah, to kind of expect that you're always going to get those, like that set number is like just not realistic.
Yeah. So I was going to add to the misconceptions of being the timelines of sometimes of getting links, because I think like as a mini case study, I guess, I was doing some outreach in America over the past couple of months and was getting really, really great opens and didn't actually get any links until the 6-week mark. And I feel like as PRs, we know that like US links tend to have a longer lead time than like the UK. I mean, the fastest I think I've ever seen something go up in the UK is literally like half an hour. I've never seen that in the US, but I think a lot of people who are getting people to come on and to do PR for them and things like that are expecting that quick turnaround. Like if we have this amazing piece and we're really confident with the kind of like open rates and stuff like that, they're expecting the results like instantly to show that it's worth it. But sometimes it does just take that bit longer to kind of get the physical results, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like, and that's why if you are only doing PR for like 2 or 3 months, you can actually be missing out on opportunities because a lot of the time, like you can actually carry on outreaching something and you might get more results. And also there might be like different angles that you need to try that you haven't tried yet. So I think, yeah, that's another kind of reason why only doing it for like a short burst of time is a bit of a waste.
Lovely. We've just to move us on, we've talked a lot about KPIs, but we also touched there on setting expectations and something that when you take on a new client, you will set their expectations for what the next few months are going to look like. This is the work I'll produce. This is the results I expect. Talking less abstractly, what's your process, Gaby? What kinds of work are you doing? Sorry, been that clear. What kind of work are you doing in the first couple of months before you get that coverage in order to get that coverage?
So yeah, when I onboard a new client, I always say that the first month at least is kind of it's about getting under the skin of the brand and the client. So we have like an immersion session where we'll talk about like any PR that they've done before, what competitors they really like what kind of coverage is like their dream coverage and sites that they don't want to be featured in. And then also having like ideation sessions, like I'd like to do them kind of, I can do them by myself, but also like nice to kind of do that with the client as well to get their kind of buy-in and then making sure that the ideas are like on brand as well. And then doing things like writing up the boilerplates and kind of ensuring that I also like to create like a key messages document that we will always like refer to so that yeah, within like press releases, we're always aligning with that, and it's aligning with like the kind of wider brand objectives. And then also in the first month, I tend to kind of do a media introduction. So it depends on what the brand is and if it's relevant, but I think most of the time it is where you're kind of just looking like finding those really relevant journalists and really relevant publications and just introducing yourself and kind of saying, I like to try and find if there's something in the news at the moment that's like relevant, we can say, we've got an expert that can actually comment on this, just letting you know. But if not right now, then please bear it in mind for like future. And I've had quite a lot of success off the back of that because it's like whilst you might not get loads of coverage off the back of it, it's like journalists they do like that. They do like to be kind of notified of that, and like they do remember, like, write your name down. It doesn't happen every single time, but it's definitely an activity that's like worth doing, I've found. And so I tend to like manage clients' expectations in the first month that, you know, that's what we're going to be doing. And we're probably not going to get absolutely loads of coverage, but it's very much just like letting the media know that we are the kind of key PR contact. And also like spending quite a lot of time looking at what competitors have been doing and doing things like link intersect, so looking at like where we need to be getting coverage and links as well. So yeah, that's a lot of what I tend to do in the first month.
Have you had a lot of clients ever come to you about that kind of like that first introductory month and being like, we don't need it, let's just get like cracking on with things? I mean, I've not really experienced that many. I do experience a lot of clients that are very like eager to see something immediately within the first like weeks of kind of working with each other. And how do you kind of like manage that expectation with the client?
Yeah, I I have found that, and I kind of am guilty of it as well, because when I get a new client, I like really beat myself up. I'm like, I need to get coverage straight away, whereas really it's like I know it's not that realistic, and it does take time. So I remind myself of that as well. But when I speak to clients, I do kind of say, that's why I kind of suggest that we'll tie in when we are doing media introductions, kind of look at what's happening right now that we can actually talk about and suggest that to journalists. But yeah, it is tricky because they can get itchy feet and be like, you know, we've paid you for a month and we've not got any coverage yet. And it's like, yeah, in that monthly call, I do kind of really try and emphasize like the amount of time that we've spent on all those other things that is going to be, it's essential really for the rest of the kind of retainer to be able to work.
I think a lot of PR is the long game rather than
Mhm.
the quick wins. I feel like it's been mispromoted, or what is mispromoted a word, Maya?
You can make it a word. Colloquialism.
Like a quick
Is
win
now.
strategy, and it's not like I honestly think that first month is such a key period for the PR, and for people to not respect it, I think is not the best for the long term kind of game.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got some campaigns that I've worked with where you're seeing results 3, 4, 5 years on because work was really done the first time round. Or off the back of that, you know, campaigns where you can refresh them or reuse them. So if you really put the effort in right now, it will mean you've got a lot less work to do down the line. If you do need that quick win, if you are struggling to hit that target or that hit 6 months ago, let's refresh that. So yeah, I think you're right. It really is one of those areas of marketing that benefits from really putting the effort in at the beginning. No quick wins, unfortunately.
I think if you think about it as well, like as a PR, you are communicating the brand on their behalf to loads of new people. So of course you haven't worked there for years, so you need to kind of take the time to understand what they like USP is, like how they are different to competitors, and like what makes them kind of stand out. And that takes time. Like you can't do that in a few days. It is, when you think about the fact that, yeah, the people in their marketing team have been working there for months, if not years, like that's kind of the difference, and why it won't happen straight away, I think.
I saw something really good on LinkedIn that was, I can't remember who it was now, talking about exactly that, communicating that to clients. And they basically said, I'm the expert in PR, but you are the expert in your product, and we need to work together to kind of share that expertise. And, you know, you can't expect me to do your job in the same way I wouldn't expect you to do mine.
So we've talked a lot about the kind of initial stages, the quiet months, I guess, within PR when you're first starting out, and then like KPIs and expectations. But why do you think that short bursts of PR rarely have that kind of like long-term value? So say a client came to you and only wanted to do 2 months work with you, why would you suggest to them that a long-term PR strategy would be better? And I guess this kind of depends on the industry. I feel like there's so many different like varying factors towards somebody asking that. So I know that's a very open-ended question, but yeah, what would you say to that?
I think from like a search perspective, it does actually like it is kind of known in the SEO industry that it takes like months for kind of rankings to move and to be impacted by digital PR. So I think if that is like a focus for them, if digital PR is a focus for them, then doing something for like 3 months is just not really going to drive much impact. And I think then, like we were saying about kind of awareness and the brand building side of it, it takes at least a month to even kind of get under the skin of the brand and be in a position to like communicate that to journalists. So if you're only doing something for like 2 or 3 months, that just doesn't give you very much time to kind of do anything like to do that much else. I think also kind of building relationships with journalists is something that, you know, we're not talking about like going to London and like meeting journalists and taking them out for coffee and everything, but it does take time to build relationships with journalists in that they know who you are and they know they can come to you for like a certain topic. And if you're only working with a brand for like 2 or 3 months, that's not enough time for that to happen. And a journalist might then come to you in like 6 months' time when you're not working on that client anymore. And that just shows that they're just missing out on all these opportunities.
What would you say, do you think, are the biggest risks of somebody doing a one-off campaign versus like, or just like a reactive story or thought leadership compared to them having a bit more of a longer strategy, like that one-off kind of campaign compared to the ongoing?
You see it a lot with things like dream job campaigns where they get loads of like coverage and links and they do amazing and then it just drops off. And I think the biggest risk is a competitor might start doing activity and quickly like, well, if they're doing kind of more kind of long lead activity, that all that work that you've put in is just not gonna cut through. It will kind of quickly go to the bottom of the kind of pile. It will be not as visible.
What are 3 things you would give as advice to a PR that is dealing with a client that is trying to look at it as a short-term burst rather than long-term value? And what advice would you give to a brand who is currently kind of trying to decide between investing that kind of time and energy and money into a long-term strategy versus a short-term strategy, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so I think at first, like investing in PR for like a long period of time, it can seem like daunting, but if you really want to see like tangible results and kind of if you want to get ahead of competitors, if you want to kind of rank above them, if you want to be the go-to person in your industry for journalists, and if you want to appear in those AI search results for your product or the best whatever it is, the best retinol serums, the best whatever it is, you do need to be doing it for like a long period of time. I would say like I do think at least 12 months for like PR is what you need to be doing for it to really drive value. There needs to be a kind of understanding of it within the business as well with it that is wanting to do PR from. It can't just come from like the SEO person or whatever. It needs to be something that the wider business kind of understands, and there needs to be like a process internally on their side for them to kind of, or a desire for them to actually do PR and for the right reasons. So yeah.
We've got a spare couple of grand in the budget that needs using. Can you do
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah.
I was going to say that having a really strong client services team or like project manager help you to like discuss the benefits of like longer strategies, because I know that like for example when Maya and I worked together, if I wanted to go to a client and explain and I knew that they were being a bit funny about like not getting results instantly and stuff like that, then I knew that Maya was on our side because she understood digital PR and she understood how it worked to actually go
Yeah.
to the client and have my back. Whereas I think sometimes project managers and client directors, whatever they get called, can have that bit of like knowledge gap, which makes it difficult to have that support with clients. So I definitely think sometimes it's really good to have a strong, knowledgeable team.
Yeah, I agree.
Fab. Okay, thank you so much for talking us through that, Gabby. We're going to move on to the next section, which is talking through some campaigns that we've seen recently, and we've actually decided to go with some campaigns from Airbnb, and it's something that they do on a regular basis. I would say I think I've seen at least 10 in the past couple of years, and it's a very similar kind of vein of campaign that they do in terms of if there's something culturally that's happening, movies, TV, blah blah blah, and they will create a house that I don't know if it's real because sometimes
Yeah,
Sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't.
because I remember the Shrek one that they did. Rita Ora and her husband Taiki Waititi.
Taika Waititi.
That's it.
Yeah.
Actually went together, I think, to it, which I thought was a rogue shout. But I
yeah,
think it's interesting because obviously we've just been talking about long-term and short-term value of PR, and they've obviously kept with the exact same kind of strategy for the past couple of years. And I think it's worked really well, but it's a bit interesting to see what you guys think about it as well.
yeah. I agree. It almost feels like a bit of a cookie cutter campaign now, where they obviously have got the strategy laid out and they've got all the teams like processes ready to go. Like whenever there's something, obviously they prep way in advance, but they will mark out those like when there's like a massive film coming out or franchise, it's like they can plan for that. And it seems like I think that they're really successful because they've not just thought about the PR content. It's like they've created, with the Shrek one, they created that really nice like social video, and then on site as well, on the Airbnb site, like all the content was like written in Shrek themed and like Shrek puns, and it was the same as like Barbie, where there was like get your Kenergy from like this room or whatever, and it was really fun, and so it was like really, it felt really real and brought it to life. And it just translated into so many like areas of marketing, not just PR, which just meant there was so many like different touch points. So I think in terms of like reach and awareness, like they are like really, really clever, and they're also a good way of targeting different audience groups, I suppose, because like the Shrek one was probably more like families, parents that have got kids. Like Barbie is probably, well, millennials or well, I suppose kids as well. But it's just kind of a good way of like the brand, which is just self-catering accommodation, being more relevant to like different audience groups.
Yeah, because Airbnb are a global company, they are definitely choosing like characters and films that are internationally known. They're not
Mm.
like I feel like KFC at the moment do a lot of different things. Like really enjoy KFC's campaigns, but I think because they've got so many different like branches, like KFC Australia, KFC USA, they do like something rogue every week. Like every time I'm doing the newsletter, there's something rogue. Like last week it was toothpaste flavored ice cream, which in my opinion is obviously just mint ice cream. But anyway,
Yeah.
they're doing so much that it's hard to kind of like keep track of. Whereas this feels like they're doing things intentionally that are globally kind of like appreciated, I would say. I think it's a really interesting tactic. I do kind of think though, is it going to get to a point where it's going to be overdone? Like the Smurf one that they've just done hasn't, or I haven't seen it be covered as much as like the other ones. Even though
I think there's less nostalgia around Smurfs. So my sister was Smurf obsessed. I've seen every episode 8 times because of her. And I feel like it's not the same, like, because it's aimed at such a young age group. It's not like Barbie or Polly Pocket or Shrek, where you're aiming at kind of 8 to 10. So they'll remember it when they're adults and they'll feel that nostalgia. Smurfs is more aimed at like 4-year-olds who don't necessarily carry that through. And I guess from
Gonna really offend someone who's gone.
maybe crop it out. From my perspective, I think also looking at the Smurf kind of offering, if you showed me that the majority of that Airbnb and didn't tell me it was Smurfs themed, I might just think it's cottagecore or woodlandy, or there are certain Smurf markers to it, but it's not as in your face as, say, like the Polly Pocket one was literally, they made the Polly Pocket like handbag that we all had, the Shrek one, they made the swamp. There was no, that couldn't be anything else. I think the Smurf one is very cutesy, but it's not necessarily like I'm living in a Smurf's hat for the weekend kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know what you mean, Thea, about like maybe like do they need to think of a way to make it a bit more exciting or like do something a bit different? Because it's like, I don't know, it feels like it could have the potential to like deepen the brand a bit if they just do it at every opportunity. And like maybe the Shrek one, yeah, wasn't as quite as impactful because it was like, yeah, we've seen this before, and like it's not as
The Trek one is the only one I think that I've seen on social media. The other ones, I don't know whether I've only seen them because I work in PR, so I'm obviously like looking at things. I don't know whether it's that I would see outside of it, but then I don't know. It's just not something I've seen on like I primarily get my news from TikTok nowadays, so it's not something I
yeah.
on TikTok or anything like that. Whereas that Shrek one is the only one, and that was because of Rita Ora and I'm not going to try to say his name again.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
the celebrity element they need to bring in then. They need to bring it across.
I did some Airbnbs last year, I think, where they'd done like celebrity, like I think they'd got this house in LA, and I think it was like Shakira or something like that that you could go and hang out with. But again, I find it interesting that the campaigns I think are amazing, but is it something that is actually known outside of the PR and social media community kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think as well, like people are maybe if they don't look real, I think people are becoming more like it's like, yeah, I can't really stay in this Airbnb, can I? Because it's like it's probably gonna be it's essentially a competition, like or you like submit your details and then like I don't know how it actually worked. Like with the Barbie one, did someone actually go and stay there or like I don't
Remember
know.
the Beetlejuice one? I'm sure I saw pictures of people going to the actual Beetlejuice Airbnb, so I'm sure it's real because realistically they've got the budget for it, haven't they? They're a huge company.
Yeah.
But I think I also wonder how much of it is Airbnb and how much of it is maybe marketing budget that they're putting in.
I did read that a lot of it comes from the movie marketing budget, which is probably why the Barbie one was a full-on Barbie mansion. Because I mean, we all know what was their marketing budget, like 140 million or something, whereas some of the others, not necessarily. But then again, just following my own train of thought, where's the Polly Pockets movie? There is no Polly Pockets movie, and yet they had a real like that was custom built, that structure.
Thank you so much, Gabby, for coming on and talking us through all of that. I'm sure there's going to be lots of people that will be nodding their heads as they're listening to this, as I think it's something we've all experienced. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.